Giuliani just put basically his career on the line. His entire, I mean, what would you call his legacy? Everything that he's done is now on the line. He said that there was illegal stuff on there involving.
Now we're getting into the bad stuff. Let's go for it. Let's pull it up.
Yikes.
From the Examiner, Washington Examiner. Rudy Giuliani says he sent alleged sexually explicit materials involving underage girls from Hunter Biden to Delaware police. This is the Examiner. So here's what we know. Giuliani said he did it. Mm-hmm. And is that news in and of itself? Well, Just the News reached out to the police, and the police said we did forward the materials to to the FBI, to the State Department of Justice. Does it mean we have evidence? No. Does it mean Hunter Biden is guilty? No, he's innocent until proven guilty. And I haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
Now, the challenge with this is no one's going to publish any explicit photographs of an underage. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. So the question now is, like, what do we do 13 days out from an election with this material? So it's there. I mean, let me read a little bit. They say Rudy Giuliani said on Tuesday that he shared allegedly explicit materials involving underage girls from Hunter Biden with police in Delaware. The text messages and photos discussed by Giuliani, a personal lawyer to President Trump and former New York City mayor, appear to have been found in a laptop hard drive that purportedly belonged to Hunter Biden. Blah, blah, blah. Those computer materials are already in possession of the FBI. Quote, there's a text message to Hunter's father in which he says the following, and he's discussing his sister-in-law, who for quite some time was his lover, Giuliani told Newsmax. Setting up the background for the exchange, he says, she told my therapist that I was sexually inappropriate. This would be with an unnamed 14-year-old girl, and that's what Biden was apparently saying. Now, I want to stop there. Hunter is saying to Joe, she accused me of this. That doesn't mean he was accused of it. Doesn't mean there's any photos, so we don't know for sure. And that's what Giuliani has actually shown.
Right.
Giuliani, if there was photos, he's not going to hold up a photograph for a camera.
Yeah.
So it is a conundrum, but I'll tell you this. I don't believe, no matter what you think of Rudy Giuliani, he's fabricating these things. I'm willing to bet he gave some stuff to the police. Now, the question is, how serious is it? We won't know.
Right. And here's the thing, too. Like, the idea that it's fabricated, right? Even setting aside anyone's personal feelings about Giuliani, that would be a felony. And not just any felony. Like, that would catch him in an enormous amount of very, very public legal penalty and legal problem. And so the idea that he would make all of this up and fabricate it, like, he's got to be smart enough to know that if he does that, someone will find it. Someone will find it in the end.
Maybe.
Right?
I think so.
But think about this. James O'Keefe brought this up, that it feels like the New York Times and these media outlets are smearing him with outright and obvious lies because we got 2 weeks to the election. So just let her rip and deal with it later.
Exactly, because that's the thing. Like, if you want, whether you're in the media or whether you're in politics or whatever it is, if you want Biden to win, now is not the time to be curious. Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be curious about any of this. And so I think, there's a little bit of the ends justify the means, I think, going on in a lot of people's heads, where even the idea, like, let's say, and I don't think this will happen, but let's say it all comes out to be bunk. It's all fake. If you're a journalist at the New York Times or CNN and you start poking around and start raising the profile of this thing, and it actually is disinformation, again, no evidence that it is, but in these people's minds, if it's disinformation, then they're doing what Comey did last cycle.
Right.
They're giving weight to people to vote against Biden in the run up to an election, and they're too scared to even touch it, I think.
If they report on it in any capacity, it's out there.
Exactly.
And you're not going to reach every single person. So the media, being at this point an apparatus of the Democratic Party, is just shutting up. Whereas an actual news outlet's going to be like, I don't care when it is.
Right.
I don't care what's happening. Let's talk about this story. So my position's been basically, is this dirty politics? Oh, you betcha. They are releasing this information in October on purpose.
Totally.
They want to help Trump win. Does that mean Hunter Biden is innocent? No, this is pretty damning information. And Joe Biden seems to be involved in these, like, pay for play kind of things. I think they wait until the very last minute to influence an election, because that's what they do. That's what Hillary Clinton was doing with Oppo research and the Steele dossier. It's dirty politics. Now, what are we as citizens supposed to do when we find out at the very last minute, the 11th hour, that Joe Biden might be selling his name, using his son as an intermediary to bypass laws?
Right.
Essentially, as a loophole. Oh, man. Don't vote for him, I guess. That's the first thing you can do. And so there's a question of, is it good that they waited this long so that it's fresh in our minds? Because if they published this information months ago, everyone will forget about it.
Yeah, it'd be buried by now. So it wouldn't come up and
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and
right.
no debate moderator is going to touch it. It's going to go down the memory hole, and we're all going to forget about it.
Now Trump's going to bring it up tomorrow. They're going to be like, Mr. Trump, we want to talk to you about Black Lives Matter. And he's going to go, Hunter Biden's laptop has photographs of underage.
The problem is, if he did, that doesn't have anything to do with Joe. In my opinion, if Hunter is a scheming, narcissist, a dirty underage girl doing guy, it's not Joe Biden.
Yes.
But if Biden's involved with Burisma, that's a problem.
No, the CEFC is the bigger deal in my opinion.
That?
That's the Chinese
energy
company. They went under. My understanding is the thing about Burisma is that they've tried to debunk this to the 18th degree. It's like, Joe was doing it because the international community thought Shokin was bad or whatever. And I'm like, okay, how about the China email? I saw this one dude I know. He posted Joe Biden. Joe Biden may be meeting an executive from a Ukrainian company is the worst October surprise I've ever seen. And it's responded with the best I've seen was the email indicating Joe Biden was using his son as an intermediary to receive Chinese equity, as through a loophole essentially.
Right.
That's the crazy. But I'll tell you what, if Joe Biden came out when this email dropped and these emails dropped and when the laptop dropped and the emails dropped and he said, I think everybody knows at this point that I have a troubled son. Yeah. And I think many people in this country have dealt with addiction and struggled through that. And they understand what it's like to have a loved one who does as well. And I would ask for privacy. And then if he actually was honest, addressed it, wasn't angry and snapping, no, you're lying, no, you're smearing me, rah.
Yeah.
And he actually he owned up to it, it would have worked in his favor.
Agreed.
He would have been a sympathetic dad who's got his troubled kid that he's trying. And you know what, man? He really could have played it up. If he said, Hunter's his only son now, right? Because after Bo passed?
After Bo passed, yeah.
If he said, I had a son, Bo Biden, who passed, it was cancer, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And he says, and now my only child has these addictions, these problems, and is struggling, and I'm doing everything in my power to keep him safe and protect him, and it's causing great struggles through my family, and I will do anything for my son. That would have been sympathetic.
Yeah.
People would have been like, this poor guy. And there's so many people in this country who probably can sympathize with having a messed up kid, but knowing they still love him and will do anything for him. Instead, what's ended up happening with Joe Biden is he snaps at reporters, he refutes to take questions, and it makes it seem like he's the mastermind using his son to make cash.
Yeah.
And
And he's obviously denigrating reporters too, right? This happened with Bo, what's his face from CBS. It would be one thing if he said, "Hey, you know what? That's not appropriate," and then jumped into what you had just mentioned, right? And talked about a very unfortunately and tragically American story about what it's like to have a loved one who's battling addiction.
Yep.
That you're right. Like that's the sort of thing that millions and millions and millions of Americans can relate to in a deeply sympathetic way. But the fact is, he clams up, he shuts down, and he gets mad at a reporter for even having the gall to ask. And it makes it look like he's got something to hide because
I think he does.
But I mean, Biden's been in public life for 47 years. He's answered, probably not lately, but he's answered tough questions in front of the media. He's been media trained. There's a super easy way to pivot, and the fact that he's not taking it as someone seeking the highest office in the land, it does smell bad.
Well, I can say there's two different ways to look at it. One, he's lost it. He's lost his edge.
Also a good point.
I mean, come on, man. The dude's 70. What is he, 78 now, or is he still 77?
77.
I don't know what his birthday is. He doesn't have it anymore, you know?
Speaking of things we're not allowed to talk about, right?
What? His age?
Yeah, no, it's his mental health and his son's emails.
Oh,
those
right.
The two off topics.
Let me tell you,
Tara Reid. I want to talk about that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Tara Reid at the Capitol.
Well, rape.
Allegedly
sexually assaulted.
Assault.
Yeah.
Well,
so listen.
Same thing.
I'm 34 and I skateboard all the time, and it's funny when like people comment and they're like, "Man, Tim, for someone in your 30s, you still got it." And I'm like, "Dude, when I was 19, I would jump off a building and like bounce on the ground and then get back and be like, yeah, I'm 34 and I'm not doing that. I'm skating ramps. It's easier on the knees and stuff."
Amazing.
Listen, skateboarding is something you can do really, really well when you're into your late teens and early 20s. And then when every skateboarder knows when you're 30s, you kind of chill out a little bit. But there are some pro skaters who are still in their 50s and they're doing really, really well. But we all understand how sports works.
Yeah.
How long do you play football or basketball for? Joe Biden is 77. He's not sharp anymore. He can't handle this. So maybe he used to be able to handle tough questions and now he can't. So he gets bits of, you know what it is? When people's brains don't work and they can't recall and they feel constrained by their lack of ability, they get angry. right?
I see this with men a lot, yeah.
With dementia, right?
With dementia.
Yeah, I can only imagine how frustrating it is
Right.
to be like standing there and you're like, think, why can't I think? Why can't I? What do I say? I'm just sick of this. No, shut your mouth.
And in front of the whole world, too,
Yeah.
right? It's not like he's just a guy going about his life or whatever.
He's also a plagiarist. Like, he
yeah.
had to
That's
drop
right.
out. Was it the
That's right.
1988
it's
yeah,
presidential?
84 or something like that.
87,
Yeah.
87. I think it was 87.
He dropped out because he got caught plagiarizing in his presidential bid.
Did you see the Johnny Carson thing?
No.
It's a really great bit from what did Carson host? The Tonight Show?
I think so.
Late Show?
Well,
Yeah, Tonight
But
Show.
he's like, did you see this? Joseph Biden's dropped out after he was caught plagiarizing. He apparently took some words from a British politician, used them as his own, and well, to reassure his staff, he said, "Listen, there's nothing to fear but fear itself." So good, classic.
That's
stand-up.
good. Oh, back when stand-up was good.
But then didn't Biden recently? No, he's been plagiarizing a lot. Wasn't there something recently he did?
Yeah, I was scratching my brain for that too.
Canadian
Well, so
politician.
that yeah?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Let me go back to the first point I was trying to make about the emails is that he may just be dull and unable, and it's really frustrating to like not be able to do it anymore.
Sure.
But the other thing may be that he's in on it and he knows what he was doing and he's freaking out.
Yeah.
And so he's getting asked and he's like, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Like
And I mean, that's the thing too. Like it looks like, I think that obviously it all looks bad, but can you imagine if anyone in good faith in the media or whatever it is, if they actually thought that this was something that was a non-story, if they actually spent some time to look into it? I think one of the reasons it looks so bad and him looking frustrated looks so bad is everyone is saying, don't look in the corner, don't look in the corner. And so what are your eyes going to do? They're going to drift to the corner.
Right.
Like there's nothing else for them to do. And so when you have this concerted effort around it to make sure that no one is looking at this thing that, like, I don't know, it's the 800-pound elephant in the room.
But you know what the media is looking at right now?
What?
Rudy Giuliani.
Oh,
Tucking in
no.
his shirt.
Oh, yeah, they're trying to smear Giuliani.
Yeah,
This is
quick a distraction, man.
amazing.
The Russia thing fell apart. That's why.
So here's what's fascinating. There's illicitly obtained footage of Giuliani, and there's a photo that was published where he's leaning back on a bed with his hand like partially down his pants. And I was reading the story and it said, because these news outlets want to insinuate something, but they struggle to because they'll get sued.
Yeah.
And it said Giuliani laid back and fiddled with his untucked shirt, as if to imply what? The
Yeah.
photos make it look, they're trying to make it seem like Giuliani got caught by Sacha Baron Cohen trying to like hook up with a young journalist or something in a hotel room, when in reality he was tucking in his shirt. He did an interview. They took the mic off, and when they mic you up, they have to put it through your shirt, right?
Yeah, right.
So he probably had to untuck a piece of his shirt, run the mic up the lapel,
Makes sense.
put on his jacket, and then when they took it down, he was leaning back, an old fat man, tucking his shirt in. Then they used that to make it seem like he was doing something else. So here's what's funny. Giuliani says, "I've got text messages. Here's an email," and they go, "Well, we don't know if this is true."
Yeah.
And then Sacha Baron Cohen goes, "I am Borat, and here is Giuliani," and then they're all like, "Everybody, look at Giuliani. He's getting naked or something."
Something.
Yeah, I mean, it's the entire media who just lectured us for a really long time about how we have to wait for things to shake out and wait for more evidence to develop, or else it might be someone who is deliberately trying to mislead us, can 100% jump the shark as soon as it becomes convenient for them, right? And I think this is why, we brought up the Steele dossier earlier. I think this is why a lot of conservatives look at these, hey, don't look at the man behind the curtain and say, You've never cared about this before. When have you once showed even a tiny modicum of reservation before accepting a story when it's helpful and convenient for you? And they just did it again. They're in the middle of ignoring another story that matters, and they jump the shark on something else that is very clearly tied to it.
You know what I think? Like, the Democratic Party and the establishment left, it seems to be a chicken running around with its head cut off, right? And I don't think anybody cut its head off. Like, Trump didn't do it. Trump came because they were frantic and spastic.
Yeah.
I think maybe they just the establishment politics of this country just eventually lost its will and strength. And maybe it's Hillary Clinton's fault.
Yeah.
Like, maybe instead of the Democrats finding a strong, charismatic leader to carry the party forward, Hillary demanded it. And
Right.
she wasn't the person who was supposed to lead them.
Yeah.
And that resulted in a substantive weakening of what the left was. And so the reason I bring this up is I'm thinking about Sacha Baron Cohen and what he's trying to do. And I think 10 years ago, like, when was Borat? When did it first come out?
Yeah.
It
Had to be 10 years
was
ago,
look,
right? Yeah.
back in the days of Jon Stewart, you had very smart liberal individuals who in good faith mocked things that were ludicrous. And, Jon Stewart, like what I mentioned this before the show, but he's even praised Project Veritas back in the day. And James O'Keefe I think he may have tweeted about it at some point. Jon Stewart was like, they did good journalism. They exposed this. Yeah. And he even showed like the Acorn investigation Veritas did. And he was like, tell me this does not get worse. And he uncritically was showing Veritas like, this is amazing stuff. Yeah. Today, after Jon Stewart leaves, after Obama, leaves in 2016, there is a power vacuum in the Democratic Party and the establishment left in this country where there's no charisma anymore. Right. Hillary Clinton certainly did not have any. And then they started creating all of these like plastic versions of Jon Stewart. So John Oliver, Jordan Klepper, Samantha Bee, Trevor Noah, they do not understand what made The Daily Show fun and interesting and exciting. Right. So now what you get is, and looping back to Sacha Baron Cohen, it's I don't know, make fun of conservatives, I guess, and people like it. So what's happened is they've created this political structure based on people with low information individuals who don't do research, who don't read news, who literally get their news from Trevor Noah or John Oliver. When people were getting their news from Jon Stewart, it was kind of bad. But it wasn't that bad because Jon Stewart still would like show you Veritas and uncritically be like, can you believe this stuff? So you were getting your news in a fun and interesting way where someone was being funny. To replicate this, B-tier individuals who didn't have the charisma or talent of someone like Stewart looked at his show and misunderstood what made it interesting. And they said, you know what he does? He makes fun of conservatives. So you end up now with these like, look at John Oliver. I love this. John Oliver, when his show Last Week Tonight first started airing when it first came out, it was always blowing up on Reddit and getting upvoted to crazy every single time. And then one day, it slowly started going down, and people were posting it less and upvoting it less. And I noticed in the comments, people were saying, dude, all of his jokes, his shows are the exact same show with different proper nouns. He would do the exact same thing. And that's why the meme of current year, little Timothy, it's current year, because that's they took one Stewart joke, wrote it out and said, replace this and this and this, and we have a story. And so that's what the show was. So what happens when you create a bunch of knockoff plastic versions of what was once charismatic and entertaining to the left? You get something boring and unwatchable. But the low information individuals who like shows like Big Bang Theory with laugh tracks, no offense to Big Bang Theory viewers, but it's you watch a show with a laugh track because they tell you when to laugh. Right. You watch John Oliver because he tells you when the joke is, because the joke is at the same point every single time. Right. You're not getting real information anymore.
And you're never going to be the butt of the joke, right? And I think that's one of the keys for someone like Oliver. In a way that Stewart, like he was always happy to be a circular firing squad. He'd take shots at anyone, he'd take shots at himself, whatever it is. But I think one of the reason why so many people, particularly right now when things are really scary for a lot on the left, are so drawn to a format like that is they are always the good and righteous one, and the person being laughed at is always someone else whom they don't like, and honestly, at the end of the day, probably don't know. I think one of my favorite anecdotes that I always come back to is there was a journalist who did an interview with other journalists about the number of people who they knew who owned a Ford F-150, the biggest selling car in the country. And
they didn't know anybody.
They didn't know anybody. It was like 1 in 15 journalists or something knew someone who had an F-150. Whereas everyday Americans, it's like 1 in 1, right? And so when you've got this a small and now narrowing group of people who are all laughing at the same joke over and over again within what is essentially a coddled safe space where they know it's never going to be them, nothing they do could ever be wrong, it becomes like it's comfort food for them rather than something that's entertaining.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.